Over the years of looking into or researching into tort law, I would come to sort of describe the situation in Bangladesh as one of a tort law deficit. So you have an abundance of, wrongful deaths and injuries arising from acts of negligence or torts, but there is virtually no tort liability to hold those responsible accountable. So within this, context of deficit, one could view Roshan Akhtar's decision to sue for compensation and Catherine Massoud's decision to sue for compensation as wanting to, sort of create a rupture within this wider context of the tort law deficit. So interestingly, one would be hard pressed to find tort cases in Bangladesh, but the most common cases that still exist within the very limited body of case law are road crashes. So road crashes for that reason are very significant in the development of tort law in Bangladesh generally, because whatever little jurisprudence we have relates largely to road crashes. So for that reason, these cases are, as I said, not just about road safety in Bangladesh, but it is about the future of tort law and the future of holding, any acts of negligence to account through, the imposition of tort liability. We had two very basic forms of corporate accountability dating back to at least 1939, when there was also the colonial version of the Motor Vehicles Act, and this imposed two very minimal duties on motor vehicle owners / transport corporations, which is if your vehicle has led to the death or injury of someone, then you have a duty to pay compensation. And B, if you are operating a motor vehicle, you have a legal duty to take insurance coverage for third-party harm. So these two minimal duties were imposed on motor vehicle owners and therefore transport corporations by a colonial legislation. These were then retained by the Motor Vehicles Ordinance that was passed in 1983 under a military dictatorship, which also, built on this framework and introduced motor vehicles claims tribunals. So you have this minimal, but still quite progressive corporate accountability framework from the colonial legislation and the ordinance passed by a military dictatorship, which then, the great irony is that this corporate accountability framework then gets undone after a popular uprising by a so-called popularly elected government, right? So they, in the Road Transport Act 2018, removes these two minimal duties and basically grants the corporations total immunity. So let us take a moment to sort of let's just take a moment for that to seep in. So you have a military dictatorship and a colonial administrator, which gave us more, a law that held corporations more to account than what a democratically elected government did in 2018 after a popular uprising. So that is the level of, a betrayal, one could say, that this Road Transport Act introduced.